You're listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. Wepa! What up, mi gente? It's your boy Al Mega. Welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders podcast. And today I'm excited because we're going to put some sazon and all that good stuff on what we're talking about today. So we're going to be talking about an amazing Latino comic book universe that's about to dawn on us. Let me tell you, I got the two gentlemen that are the masterminds behind that. But before I introduce them, I'm going to introduce today's co-pilot. He was a guest. He's become a friend. He is a fellow Latino creator. He is a comic book creator. He is a filmmaker. The one, the only Melvin Cartagena.
Wepa! How are you doing tonight, Alan?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining me because we're about to talk to two amazing superstars right here. Yo, I can't wait. Are you ready?
Yeah, I am ready. As ready as I'll ever be.
Let's do this. First up, ladies and gentlemen, he is the creator of El Peso Hero. He is a co-founder of the Texas Latino Comic Con, and he is also the co-EIC of Chispa Comics from Scout Comics, Mr. Hector Rodriguez.
What's up, bro? Thank you. Nice. Órale. Nice.
Quero, thank you for coming on. Let me introduce your partner in crime. All right. He is an award-winning author, poet. He is also the co-publisher of Chispa Comics, the one, the only David Mose. What up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's just again. Thanks for having us. It's great.
No, thank you for coming on to talk about this awesome new idea and universe that Comic Crusaders was the first one to break the news. I was so happy to find that out too, So it was a Latino like, yeah, we got something hopefully popping off. It's going to be amazing in this year through Scout. So before we get into all that good stuff, right? Just a little bit of your origin stories, guys. I want to know a bit about like where you guys are originally from and what was your first taste of fandom and who, if anyone, gave it to you. So Mr. Rodriguez, we'll start with you.
Híjole, okay. Oh, well, I was born and raised in the border town of Eagle Pass, Texas, and next to Rio Bravo, Rio Grande. And so, like all borders, it's a bridge of cultural mix, a lot of history. And so I like to think that I bring a lot of love too, a lot of passion as David does to anything I work on as well. And so going to your second question about the fandom, I guess with El Peso Hero would be within the first year, in Primer Impacto did a story on El Peso Hero and they wanted a Lone Star Emmy.
Primer Impacto, where? I remember that show.
Yeah, 2000, late 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's not on the air anymore?
What's that?
Yeah, Primer Impacto is not on the air anymore? That's gone?
I think it's changed. I think it changed.
Ahora es Segundo Impacto, ahora se llama Segundo Impacto.
Porque el bochinche de ahí no está bueno. Yeah, the bochinche is not juicy. That's why. What about you, Dave? Same question.
Yeah, I'm from a town downriver from where Hector grew up, from McAllen, Texas, and like him, growing up on the border, huge influences. Storytellers in my family were the main ones that really got me into storytelling myself. My grandmother Garza was the matriarch of the family, and her scary stories about las lechuzas, la llorona, la mano pachona, la mano peluda, were the kinds of things that kept me up at night. But I was also lucky to have a dad who had, when he was a kid, like in the 50s, had really been into like Pulp Fiction. And so I had all these copies of like Black Mask and Argosy and, just these, those great old, they were like yellow and faded and, had creases all over them. But I also got to read those. And he was really the one who got me into, because, through one path, I was into storytelling, and I got into school, and my mom taught me how to read before I went to school, and I got into like reading and classics. But my dad was the one who really got me into reading that and got me into reading Mexican historietas. We would go across to Reynosa, and Calimán was one of my.
Oh my God! Calimán. You're my friend for life, Calimán. You know Calimán representing.
Yeah. Oh my God! One of my very first experiences with being a fan myself, and then my dad was a big DC guy, so it was lots of like dark DC stuff. My two first fandoms in DC were Swamp Man, and then when it, from the beginning when it launched, Black Panther as well. And so those kinds of things shaped like my own tastes. Later on, I would be an early adopter of manga and stuff like that, and reading, Ghost in the Shell and Alita and all these different things. And bit by bit, all these things influenced my border voice and kind of like focused it through the lens of comics. So that nowadays, when I create comics, that's I look back to my childhood and try to recapture just excitement of discovering all that stuff for the first time.
Gotcha. See, Hector, going back to you then, right? So, because you said, your first fandom was, the thing, but what was your first taste like as a kid, that? What was your first love?
And I call back to David, because my dad was in the military, and so when he came home, he brought in. Well, growing up, he was a border kid himself, and so he was the black sheep of the family. Watching Star Trek and buying comics, Sergeant Rock, Captain America, then going to the border, Piedras Negras, Coahuila, checking these historietas like, Calimán, Chanok, and the off-brand El Santo comics, because he wasn't really like official. Santo was like insignia and his DS and his máscara. And so, growing up, and then he brought those over, Sergio Aragones, huge influence, Mad Magazine, but also a huge kaiju fan. And so I grew up when I was watching Godzilla movies on TBS. And so as you can see, like until this day.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Where so look at that.
Yes, they're over there.
Yeah, they're there. And so it's like, they call, piggyback on David, the excitement of reading, being enthralled on a really good book, on a really good story, great characters, and then watching novelas with mi mamá, mi abuelita, and so it's just that narrative, those hooks and turns, that, within our writing, we really try to express too. And it's something, it's just a very mixture of worlds intermingling with each other.
So, I know Mervin's going to have a question, but I want to know something here. Because you guys say you kind of grew up the river from each other, not too far away. Did you guys meet at a young age, or was the bromance later in life?
The bromance came later in life, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe, what did you say about, did we meet like 6 years ago? 6 years ago? Yeah.
2018, 17.
I think it was 17.
Oh, wow, that was fairly recent.
Hector actually, he wined and dined me. He took me out. It was nice. It
was seducer. I guess we can add to Hector, seducer.
Our wives are like, wait a minute, what?
That happens when comic book fans often need that passion. Just puts aside the wives. Like, you guys go home. We'll be back later.
Yeah. No, it was great. We have a lot of friends in common. We were, working in similar spaces and trying to also maybe break in a little bit into Hollywood. And in fact, it was, partly that connection with a production company in Los Angeles that would eventually lead to our being part of this new endeavor, Chispa. We'll get into more of that when we start talking about Chispa.
Yeah, get you. Go ahead, Mervin. I don't want to hog up the time here.
Okay, no, I just loved hearing what you guys described because I call that the high-low influence, like in that you pluck from the high end of culture and from the low end, and what matters is the content, the story, the punch. You know how like commercial entertainment tends to put this boundary, this invisible line that moves about what is good and what is bad. And for us here, I think if I speak for everyone here, I think we don't care about that. I think we care about the quality. It doesn't matter where it comes from, whether it's the luchador end or from like a Sherlock Holmes or from the shadow. So I love hearing about that. So I love hearing about the cultural impact of things. What I'm curious about is the location. What location did I'm sorry, what impact did your location have on you? Because you live in this unique place where you have an entirely different culture just a few miles over the border, but then you're in this other side, the American side, let's say, that probably is not as cosmopolitan as the Mexican side, I dare say. It may not offer as much variety as the Mexican side, where like stuff from Europe comes in, stuff that is made in Mexico comes in, stuff from South America comes in, and you're taking all that in. You're in this vortex of quality, I guess. So I'm interested in hearing how the actual impact of location, and maybe if it mingles with the culture that you consume, the entertainment that you consume. How did that influence what you're doing now?
Yeah, no, I think that's a wonderful question. And Gulen Saldua, the kind of philosopher who literally like is buried like 5 minutes up the road from where my house is here in Dana, she talked about this area as a nepantla, which is like this Nahuatl word that means like a middle place, a liminal space. And when you grow up in a liminal space, where you're kind of like neither Mexico or the U.S., because like literally even in terms of geography and what the government permits, this little stretch of 60-mile wide stretch of land that we live on is it can be policed differently than the rest of the U.S., right? And so when you grow up in that space that's neither here nor there, you kind of have a unique perspective. You can see the big, more cosmopolitan cultures that you were talking about from an outsider's perspective. And you feel like a little bit less guilty about the fact that your own identity and the things that you love, pick from here and pick from there and then combine them in these new ways that some other people may find like odd and off-putting, but that feel really comfortable to you. And then I think that's what really has led both of us to be able to play around with genre the way we do and to blend them in interesting ways. And as you were kind of suggesting, Melvin, this idea that that we don't, in terms of genre, in terms of like even like literary to popular work, we don't see those boundaries as like stopping points. They're porous. Like we'll write some things that are like really kind of like maybe cheesy and over the top and melodramatic, and then we'll shift in something that's a little more elegant and moving and literary, on the same page. And I know that is not what some people want, but it is definitely a very Latino way of being. It's definitely a very Chicano way of being, but I know more generally it's a U.S. Latino way of being able to be fluid and move back and forth among different spaces.
That line that I mentioned, the line that cultural divide, that it's always moving. I don't know if you guys, this is your experience, but as a kid, I wasn't aware of that. I only became aware of that as an adult when you're more conscious. I wouldn't, maybe not the word conscious, but you're more deliberate, because now you're not just consuming it, you're actually creating it yourself. And maybe you start putting it out there and you start becoming aware that to some people, let's say you send something to someone and they reject it, and it's okay. If you don't like it, you don't like it, but you don't have to be like a dick about it. Yeah. So I'm curious to know that line that you as a kid, you don't like, this is awesome, this is the greatest thing ever. As an adult, you're replicating that. You want to replicate that in your own stuff, but it's not connecting with people. And it's like, why are you not liking this? This is awesome. So tell me a little bit about that, both of you guys.
Well, for me,
I guess, when did you become aware of that boundary? At what point did you become aware of this cultural barrier that is invisible and is always shifting? It's always changing to accommodate something popular or something, the times.
I actually had a cultural change, a cultural shock myself. We were living in the border, and it wasn't until I was nine, we moved to Central Texas, where I became a minority. And in growing up, I was very lucky enough that I watched las películas de Mexico, like el cine de oro mexicano, right? Those movies, that representation, what was there, and for me, I saw myself in those movies, in comedy, horror, action, adventure, drama. But it wasn't until we moved to Central Texas where there was none, and so even though I had more accessibility to comic book stores, which is something that I crave, and hence I was connected more towards non-human characters like Aliens versus buying Aliens versus Predator comics from Dark Horse, buying Godzilla comics, and those characters. But I was more closer to those out of the world characters than the Anglo-Saxon Western focus like Batman, Superman. Even though I was a kid as a fan, but I didn't see that connection, that cultural connection, because, when was the last time you saw Batman eat empanadas until DC Comics covers Green Lantern, and I always talk about that until, and Javier Hernandez always make fun of me because, now they're making, anyways. And so it was that I wanted to see myself in those very same comic books that I was going each Friday after school to pick up, and so I had that hunger. And so I was going to wait until, even though, later on with my own education, George Perez influence, those, you start learning, educating yourself with all those that made waves in the Latino comic book space. You pay your respects, you learn, and so you can look at Javier Hernandez with El Muerto, celebrating 25 years this year. And so, those creators have making waves, long before a lot of us. But in a world of mainstream comic books, direct to market, a character that's of Latinx background being featured in the cover was incredibly rare.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, just to kind of like to reiterate what he's saying, like moving away does do that. Moving away, going to college, those are the things that for me were, my dad, just like Hector's dad, was in the military, and so when he got stationed in South Carolina for a few years, I moved out of Texas, and then I was suddenly like, oh shit, okay, yeah. The upside is I made like a lot of Boricua and Cubano friends, and continue to expand my understanding of Latinidad. But the downside was, like, suddenly I was like a weirdo. Like, there were no Chicanos living in the low country of South Carolina. It was a strange thing. But
would you guys say that you identified with the outsider in comics, like the hero that was a bit on the fringes? He did the right thing, but he didn't quite want to participate with, like with people. Like, would you say that maybe you identify with that type of hero who's a bit of an anti-hero? And I'm not talking about Batman. Because in Mexican culture, there are characters like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. So the outsider, the person that didn't quite fit in because he was a monster, perhaps, but he was also a hero, like Swamp Thing, or just like because he was somebody from a minority group or a marginalized group. Yeah.
For me. Okay. So, see, you guys are talking about making waves. That's what I want to start talking about now. Making those waves, and especially through that awesome announcement towards the end of the last year, about what's going to be popping off, that Mucho Mas, Chispa, Scout. What a trio right here, the Trinity that's creating something dope. So talk about, they say about you guys meeting, right? So what's Mucho Mas Media? How does that connect to Chispa? How are you guys connect to Scout? And when was the birth of this awesome idea that has been a long time coming?
I'll tell you what, Hector, why don't we do this? I'll talk about like my connection to Mucho Mas and off to you, and then we'll go back and forth like that. What do you say?
Back.
So back in 2016, my book, The Smoking Mirror, won an award from the American Library Association. And it was that news was printed in the McAllen Monitor, which is the biggest newspaper here in deep South Texas. And the mother of a Hollywood producer who was from San Carlos, also a town in South Texas, cut it out, put it in an envelope, and put like a little note to her son saying, "Mijo, siempre estás diciendo that you want to make movies with our gente. Well, here's a guy who just won an award and has a book. You need to talk to him." And so she mailed it off, and he looked me up. And his name is Javier Chapa. He is the founder and the executive producer there at Mucho Mas Media. And we had a nice conversation on the phone that eventually led to his optioning my book Border Lore. And Borderlore is a collection of like the retold folk tales, dark folk tales from South Texas. And we got pretty advanced in working on making that into a TV series. And it was like one of those things where it's like down to the last minute. You've got the funding, you've got the showrunner, you've got like it's like the scripts written, stuff like that, and then it just didn't happen. But we continue to work together, and we've worked on several different projects together. At some point, he was looking to acquire or to work with more comic creators, more Latino comics creators, and that was around the time that Hector entered the mix as well. So Hector, you want to like jump in and talk about?
Yeah, it's so I was introduced by Mucho Mas, and so it was an outreach, and they came across a Peso hero through David, and they were like, oh my gosh, how could we have missed this? With all the publicity and all the press that has gone in. This was late 2018 or early 2019. And so talking to Mucho Javier, he's like from, a Latino, making waves in Hollywood, and representing. And so, because I've been approached before with El Peso Hero, but I've never felt that it was always kind of kept my cards really close, and I still do. And so it just felt like it was the right fit too. And so I'm like, oh, go ahead. And so he pitched it. And so right off the bat, within the first week, and I'm free to say this because this is pre-COVID, we got Elgin James from Sons of Anarchy, and so we, as a writer, we got Eli Roth directing, Jay Hernandez to be part of it.
That is awesome.
Eli Roth was like, he loved these. He already picked the first scene out of one of the books from Peso Hero, the one from Borderland, Peso Hero breaking through the detention facility. That was his hook. I'm like, I'm in. And so that was our relationship, my relationship with Mucho Mas throughout the years, and so developing, and with a big pivot with transmedia, the conversation of creating a Latinx imprint from the ground up, the grassroots between David and I took hold.
Yeah.
So
and that was when Mucho Mas Media and Scout Comics put their heads together and said, hey, this is an incredible idea. Let us, let's see how we can work this out. Let's come to an agreement. Let's create an imprint that we will both kind of control. And let's bring on Hector and David as the the talent scouts, the guys who are going to shepherd all these projects in. And originally we were mainly focused on doing something along the lines of Image Comics, a lot of creator-owned projects that then we would be distributing. But over the course of the past year, since we first announced the creation of Chispa, and we announced some of the creator-owned projects by Alex Segura, for example, a fellow Floridian, a fellow Cubano, down there for you, Al. I know you're no longer there in Florida, but so Alex Segura.
Yeah, but I actually saw Alex not too long ago, back Big Apple Comic Con, like 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, he's such a great guy, and he's actually doing 2 projects with us that we'll get into. But so we laid out that slate, but as the year went on, and there was more and more talk in the media, and there was all these missteps by DC and so forth. Hector and I started talking, and we were like, you see people throwing us a bone, and like we're the last ones to throw a bone. The Latinos we're the very last ones to throw a bone, right? The last community.
We're lucky we get any meat on that bone.
Yeah, exactly. It's mostly just like like cartilage and like a little grasita, and but we were like, and they'll have like this single, like you have the Blue Beetle, or you'll have like just and those comics are cool or whatever. But like you never see a team of Latinos. You would never, like, you might see a whole team of like white dudes. You'll never see a team of Latine heroes. And so we're like, well, well, why don't we do that? Why don't, this in the same way that DC and Marvel have their universe in which multiple titles exist and multiple teams exist, why don't we create a universe in which we have, people with these special abilities, but have it like operate from our perspective? What are heroes like, for example, in the Mexican American community? How do we perceive heroism, and how might that create superpowered humans that are going to be different than the this is really funny because superhero is like actually a term that is copyrighted by DC and Marvel, and so you can't actually I mean, you can say we have superheroes, but you can't name anything superheroes.
Gotcha.
You can't use superhero because and mutant is the exclusive property of Marvel, so you cannot call your heroes that have powers that arrive from a mutation mutants.
So what would happen if real mutants pop up? Will Marvel sue the mutants?
I think the mutants would win out, but maybe not. Capitalism, bro. I mean, you're like, pero somos mutantes, and Marvel will be like, no, rename yourselves, or give us, or maybe what Marvel will do is they cut a deal. They'd be like, okay, I'll tell you what, you guys are real mutants. We're gonna, we'll let you use the term, but you're gonna give us a kickback. They would figure out a way to make a profit.
Of course, absolutely. And you're so right though in what you said. Like, how can it not be an all Latino team? I've seen all white teams, all black teams, all Asian teams, but you never seen it. Like, bro, New York, Chicago. I mean, South Carolina, LA, Texas. I mean, groups of Latino. You're telling me that we're always gonna need to be rescued by others and not have our own?
It's crazy.
Thank God for El Peso Hero, at least.
Hey, and I got some heat for that when I did the Ukrainian issue. They were like, "Why is El Peso doing outside of Mexico?
Why would Superman go?" But no one questioned Superman going.
Yeah, nobody questioned.
Make him a Mexican hero, and then suddenly was empiezan a
of course, because he crossed the border.
Right?
They got mad.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. So that was the idea. And so in our world, heroes are called chispas, which is like just a lovely thing because it's Chispa Comics. They're called chispas because they're like the spark that inspires their entire community. They light the match that moves everybody. They're not just about saving people. They're about inspiring people to save themselves. That's something you think about. Like, I don't know how familiar y'all are with like corridos and other things from Mexican tradition, but our heroes are always, like you were suggesting, Melvin, kind of like they're almost like anti-heroes. They're outside of the norms of, but they're not vigilantes. They're something else. They're like the arm of the pueblo, reaching out and taking care of itself, and
an extension of the pueblo. Like you said, they are inspiring the people. Like, I am one of you. I just happen to be mutante. Maybe that's a solution. Say mutante every time you come across that word. Say mutante instead of mutant.
Stop it. Disney lawyers just wrote that. That's the translation. Okay, hold on.
Oh, that's all they would do. They would
say in other languages.
Yeah, no. We actually had our legal team look into it, and they're like, no, because all you've done is they're going to say that all you did is add an E to the end of it. That's the way they'll. I don't know, but I mean, they can keep superhero and mutant. We don't need it.
Of course not.
I think
Chispa is awesome. That sounds great. Like the spark, like Chispa que encienda el barrio. La chispa que encienda el barrio.
Yeah. And so, okay. So thanks, Romina. Is
I want to get into titles.
Not part of the superhero universe, but definitely this is one of our creator-owned comics by Julie Speciani, illustrated by S.E. Case, because we want people to know that Chispa isn't just about superheroes and kaiju and stuff like that. It's going to be about slice of life. We're going to have comics of all sorts. So this is just a really awesome workplace slice of life comic that's coming out. So you can kind of see. Ooh, I love seeing our names with like co-editor in chief. It's always nice. Yeah.
Well, all right, look at that. That's why they sent me that page. So they're gonna be like, "Yo, look at me."
Yeah, look at us. And you can kind of see like some of the great art in the by S.E. Case. They're really fantastic artists.
Beautiful coloring too.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so even while we get excited about like our own, because Obviously, that's our own IP, but we
Attack at Acapulco.
attack. So our Black Team and Tail anthology is something that's really fun, and it's already like of all of our projects, this is the one that's actually making it to the silver screen first, right, Hector? We've done
Really?
yeah,
That's amazing.
has done a movie that's coming out in April. And
trailer's coming out later this month. So.
Oh wow, that's awesome!
Wow.
Yeah,
That's so cool, man. That's
yeah,
awesome.
David just found out he's getting a trailer. Like, really? Wait a minute.
Did not realize that. Yes, I found out along with everybody else and who's listening.
Love it.
Black Demon, like Hector, you love kaiju. This is a kaiju.
Yeah,
right?
it's a kaiju story. We're excited, based on a real myth, real grounded myth in Baja California.
Yeah,
It's
a massive shark.
Hey, what?
Say that again.
A massive shark, like a
Okay. Un tiburón. All right.
Yeah, un tiburón.
Tiburón.
El
Tiburón grande.
demonio negro, and like if you go to YouTube, you look up el demonio negro, you'll see like fishermen talking about like their boats getting attacked by this massive shark, and so we rolled out like a little what we call an ashcan, like a short comic at New York Comic Con, just to give people a taste of what it was like, and we're really excited about that. I guess the like our first issue is coming out in April along with the movie. So
what's that? Get that money ready. All right.
Order it.
Here's some art
Yeah.
from that issue, which is just with just so much beautiful color in this one. I think there's a couple more.
Amazing, yeah.
Look at that! Isn't that great?
Looks fantastic.
The waves too. The capturing of the waves.
Well, the coloring too, like you can see at sunset. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the colors in this particular comic.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things about this is that we're working with a cross section of Latino writers, but also a cross section of Latino illustrators from the U.S., from Mexico, from other places, and they're just some of the best out there. Here are a few more panels.
Oh wow!
Without the dialogue in them, just so you could get a feel for.
Yeah.
Like
there goes the tiburón. You see that shark? You see the side of that mother?
Yeah. Just imagine when it comes up through the water and bites the shit out of a. Oh man, I can't wait for the movie. Y'all are gonna love it. It's great.
Really? Oh man, yeah. I know somebody that loves shark movies. So
the people who made Josh are not gonna get like all watery about this now.
Yo, Melvin, look at this cover. Holy shit!
So we've got that one.
Catrina's
Black Demon Tales of Black Demon. How is it? Black Demon Tales or Tales of Black Demon, Hector?
It is Black Demon Tales.
Black Demon Tales. Okay. I can never remember. But then Hector and I also big fans of horror anthologies, right? You guys, I don't know, Tales from the Crypt.
Tales from the Crypt, Twilight Zone, Monsters.
Amazing Stories.
All that.
Tales from the Hood.
Oh, Tales from the Hood.
Tales from the Hood, yeah.
And we wanted...
The most durable of all three. It doesn't take much money to do those.
No. And when you guys grew up, I'm sure that you had relatives that told you a bunch of scary ass stories too, right? When you were growing up.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm Puerto Rican. They kept talking about these stories from El Campo and and stuff right there, or the lady on the side road,
Yeah. Well, it's similar to La Llorona, very similar to La Llorona.
Yeah. Oh my God. And so what we wanted to do was to take stories like that and stories, either like written by horror writers or inspired by our culture, and put them in an anthology. But we wanted the frame, the storyteller in the frame story to be interesting as well. So Katrina, who is like a figure of death in Mexico, you've seen her, I'm sure, on lots of images with her big hat with the flowers and her skull face or whatever. That's La Katrina. And she has a carnival. That goes around from town to town, and people go to the rides or whatever, and then they go to her, like she's got her little wagon, and she comes out and she sits on a chair and she tells a spine-tingling story. And for the first year of this, we've got stories by V. Castro, who's just an amazing Chicana horror writer. In fact, she just had Aliens, because Hector's also a huge Aliens fan. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She had her Vasquez book come out, which tells the story of that character Vasquez that we all love so much.
Yeah, like
Aliens. And so we got a horror story from her. We got a horror story from Cynthia Pelayo, who lives in Chicago and is another amazing writer. So we were really lucky to get stories from some of the best Latino writers out there and some great illustrations. And
Oof.
you can see some of.
Look at that. Dios mío.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's
So-
the guy who introduces her, who's kind of this little man with like a strange, mysterious background, and bit by bit in each one of the issues, a little more of the frame story gets revealed, and you learn more about Katrina and what she's running from, and what she does, what her purpose is in the world and stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, Katrina. Wepa, look at that.
Will there be a volume 2, and so on?
A what now?
A volume Katrina's Tales volume 2, volume 3, every year, every few years. You think there'll be more of those?
Yeah. So every year, what we're going to do is we're going to release 3 to 4 issues, and then the following year there'll be like a graphic novel.
The omnibus, the collected one.
Omnibus. So that's what we're going to plan to do every single year. So the 3 issues that get released this year will come out as an omnibus next spring. Because Scout it has like 2.
Damn.
Yeah, this is from the very first of the stories that for Catrina's Caravan, which is actually written by Hector.
Hey, Hector, you sick guy, you look
All
at
right.
I know. It's like, wow.
The
What
Night
did he
of
do?
the Lechuza, which basically is I don't know, Hector, you might want to give them the quick pitch. So
Yeah,
what is the Night of the Lechuza about?
Katrina, Night of the Lechuza is coming out in May, so please place your orders. When you should be able to place your orders next month in comic books. No, actually in March, right? And so in this special tale, it deals with a group of border militia characters coming across folks that are running away. Folks that are
refugees.
Refugees, looking for a better life. And so this is the case where who are the real monsters? The monsters become the hunted scenario, and so there's some humor in it, some action.
And as you can see, decapitations and
Yes.
other types
And
of bodily
guts.
harm.
Yeah, love it.
Oh no, back on the gore, yeah.
And
No,
look at
that
this
was
symbol
dangerous
here.
again.
So the first, so going back to our superhero universe, going back to our IP, the first team that we're launching is the 13. They're kind of like our Mexican X-Men. It's a group of 13 Mexican American, basically teens, because it starts when they turn 18. We're gonna have them over the years like age in real time. So each year they're gonna get a year older. We're not gonna do any like resets. I'm gonna have Batman who should be like 100 years old or like 150
Right.
years old. And the idea is that they are essentially mutants, but their powers come from their Mesoamerican day sign. So in Mesoamerica, and the Maya, Nahua / Aztec people, all the different major civilizations all followed a similar calendar, and everybody had an astrological sign based on the day they were born, and there were certain attributes associated with it. And so each of these 13 heroes, these 13 chispas, their power is related somehow to their sign. It's a really cool idea, and it allows us to launch. There's going to eventually be an ongoing series, but we're going to launch this year 13 one-shot origin stories, so that we get to see each one of these heroes. And I remember when we told Scout about that, like, do you really want to drop 13? And I'm like, hell yeah, we want to drop 13 different comics. Yes, fuck yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I don't care if nobody
Different
else does
history,
that. Like, we have there's a huge gap in the stacks where Latinidad is concerned. We need to like fill that. We need to like dump content on people in a major way.
Yes.
It's gonna be really exciting. So you can see here the people who are writing the different things. So Hector's doing Sopilote. The Wake, who's an Afro-Mexicana hero, is being done by Jasmine Lupe Mendez. Pyroclast is being done by the great, awesome Dr. Frederick Luis Aldama. Oh my God.
Hey.
He is Profe Latinx. Cloudbreak by Leticia Urieta, who's a wonderful, wonderful author. Hector Gonzalez doing Fluorescence, not fluorescent as in fluorescent, but fluorescent as in growing like plants, stuff like that. Dragon Thrall is being done by Tejano superstar, freaking Tejano singer Veronique Medrano, who is an incredible writer and being an incredible singer. So Vendaval is being done by the wonderful poet and writer Irene Lara Silva. My son, who is a comic writer and illustrator, he does like a web comic. He's in his 20s, which gives you an idea that I'm in my 50s. So he's doing the Shaper. He's writing and illustrating that. And then Henry Barajas, carajo.
Ooh.
Henry Barajas, carajo. That works really well, right? He's doing Tequila Girl. Oh my God. And then we got Laura, got Wells doing Molt. And then the guy, the Five Meat guys behind the incredible Mashbone and Grifty series that is also coming out through us, are doing a Revive. I'm doing Blue Deer, and Kevin Garcia, who is like one of the foremost experts in comics in general, comics history, comic characters. You can ask him anything, and he just will rattle off all this information. He's doing Coneja, and so it's really awesome. We're lining up illustrators this month.
Excellent.
We're gonna have comics coming out. The first batch are coming out at San Diego Comic Con, and then the following months there will be a few more in the New York Comic Con. So it's releasing.
Really cool.
We're debuting them at the big Comic Cons, and then they're going out to the shops after that. So it's
you better save me a batch at San Diego because I'm gonna go this year.
That is awesome, man. That is so cool.
All right. And so let me ask the question, because obviously you have writers, negotiations with illustrators and whatnot. I mean, how do any creators approach you if they want to get involved, with Chispa Scout?
Oh yeah, no, they totally can reach out to us through social media, like direct messaging us, or they can send us emails. I wish one thing that I always wish, Hector, is that we just had like a single. Well, after this conversation, I'm gonna make it happen. Just had like a single like submissions at
Chispa. There you go.
But right now, I mean, people can get a hold of us by emailing me. The easiest way probably would just to email me or Hector. My email is Bulls, my last name, D-O as in David Oscar @gmail.com.
To Hector at Chispa Comics.
And then Hector at Chispa Comics. Hector is a good editor-in-chief and actually uses the company email.
We balance each other out.
David continues to refuse to use it. And Hector's always having to, he's prompts me. He's like, bro, we have an email and you may wanna, can you just forward it to me? Así de flojo soy. I mean, it's so sad, so depressing.
Sorry,
but
that's fun.
Yeah. So that's we are always looking for new illustrators, new writers. This universe is going to keep expanding. We're rolling out these Mexican superheroes, but we've also got Alex Segura working with us on the Fantastic Flame, which is a Cuban American superhero, and we're in negotiations to figure out a way to incorporate that character in that universe while continuing to be his property, and Chantel Acevedo, who's the co-writer, also having those characters occur within the Chispa universe as well. And
please, bro, it's like this will be Latino Justice League right here.
Yeah, hell yeah. And then he's got his other series, The Dusk, that he and his fellow creatives did a really good job promoting through Kickstarter. We're going to also start distributing in that, we're trying to figure out, because Alex Segura is that man. He's not only is an amazing writer and a workhorse, but he's just a beautiful human being, man. And anything we could do to, he's a sweet guy, and I just want to continue working with him any way possible. But that's an example of the kind of thing, and we want to keep rolling it out. We'll have our little X-Men over here, then we'll have our Justice League, because there gotta be a Boricua, there's gotta be a Cubano, you've gotta have.
You know what I'm thinking for you guys? This would be cool. Check this out. So you could have your Central American League, your South American League, your Caribbean League, and Unidos kind of have a united Latino front. You know what I mean?
Al, we're gonna totally hire you to help us figure that out, man. That sounds like I love that idea.
Like the Latino Union. There you go. That's the name.
Yeah.
Right?
You'd have all these superheroes in each of these regions, and then they'd kind of each have each one of those regions would have a representative on on the
Just
Justice League kind
think
of
about it like gangs when they do chapters. You feel me?
I absolutely feel you. Although I will not use those exact words in any promotional material.
Yeah, please don't.
Those trademark protected words, yeah.
So let
I
me
can
ask.
almost te imaginas the kind of
Yeah, no.
y de por sí no nos bajan de jardineros y pandilleros, and then like we're all. I mean, I guess we could lean into it. We could be like, we could find a funny way to lean into it. It'd be hilarious.
Absolutely. So who are these guys? Are these going to be kind of the first introduction to the
Yeah.
universe
So the first three that we mentioned, right? Right there in the middle. Hector, tell us really quickly about the artist who did this.
Yeah, this is Adriel Mendez. He has been working with Dynamite AEW.
AWA?
I'm going back for Master, but no, AEW wrestling now. IDW.
IDW.
Marvel too. And so, Ariel is super talented. He's also he's done some of the Peso Hero covers too.
Yeah.
And so, and we have some great artists lined up.
Yeah. Go back to it really quickly though. Go back. So just so everybody knows, the guy in the middle, that's Hector. So these are the big three. These are the first three. They're kind of like our big three.
Trinity. The Trinity right here.
Yeah. And so in the middle you have Zopilote, who is from Mexico City. And he is like, I always imagine him as kind of like what happens if you cross Superman with Batman, but you take away the jingoism of Superman and the vigilanteism of Batman.
The classless.
Yeah, exactly. And you just have a guy who like truly he can sense evildoers and he can deal with them, and he does does have money, does have resources, but he's not trying to like make more money off of the people so that he can fund it.
It's challenging because I'm not leaning towards the vigilante Batman, militaristic, capitalistic.
No. But that's not how we are as a people either.
No, it's not.
It's a story that's grounded, so much so that within the pages of Zopilote are going to be drawn by Chema, which is a Mexicano near La Capital, so he's familiar with the culture, and so and that world, and so it's always as editors and chief, we always try to, and writers and creators, we try to do what's the great fit, and so that's why we ask folks, we're free to open for
please reach out to us. Behind him is Pyroclast, who is just you can see he's a dude made out of like rock that can turn volcanic, and that's basically.
Well, listen, it gotta be with a Latino temper, you're gonna have to have a hot one.
He is a fucking hot
cold, yeah.
And so no say. I mean, we'll see what kind of clever things Fede comes up with. No sé si like maybe his powers get triggered when he eats too many jalapenos. I mean, I don't know what it is.
I know what it is. He eats that damn chip that came out. The one chip challenge. He ate too many.
And then we see down here the Wake.
She's cool.
She's super badass. She's super badass. I mean, one of the things that we talked about was we need to have an Afro-Mexicana, and it needs to be written by a Black woman. And so Jasmine Mendez, she's Dominican. She lives in Houston. She's married to Lupe Mendez, who's Chicano, and they're raising their daughter, who's half Dominican, half Chicana. And it's like just they're incredible writers, both of them. Lupe Mendez, poet laureate of Texas. Jasmine Mendez, an award-winning novelist and poet for kids and adults. It's just a great combo. Maybe not the people that DC and Marvel would tap to write something like this, but I think
they wouldn't.
I would imagine, they're too far out of that. I don't think they look very far from Manhattan, really, unless you happen to have made a name somehow through social media.
Marvel can't even get Latino casting right sometimes, so you know what I mean. So, you think they're gonna get writers that even understand?
Like,
I mean, even if they get the opportunity to, is stuff that probably wouldn't even get published. But this is why now we have you.
Like the changes they made to America Chavez, for example. That was
just to force her to be PR, because how can you give somebody from another dimension like a race? She's not. She's an alien. And then they changed the origin around just to fit a narrative, which was
Right.
cool to me.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
I mean, I have a problem with it as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, look at this beautiful cover though. This shit look like an old school movie 70s
Black
poster.
Demon.
Yeah. This cover was done by my boy Jay Melendez down here, and Jay Mendes, he's gonna kill me. Jay Melendez down here, and who's also from South Texas, who does incredible stuff. He did the cover of my kaiju novel, Lords of the Earth. He did the cover of Border Lord. He works with me on a bunch of stuff. He's a great artist, and so yeah, we wanted like an old school kind of down to like the little sticker, everything, made in the USA. It's just like really, really cool.
Very grindhouse energy.
Yeah, that's what we wanted. And then
here's
the alternate cover for Katrina's Caravan, Light of the Night.
This is awesome. I love this one. Actually, I like this one better than the first one. It's dark. I like that sort of darkness.
You gotta collect them all. You gotta buy them all.
Yes,
that's it. That's
it. Well, the variant covers, the 22 cover variants.
Yeah.
That's
what specifically does is they for those first issues always request a variant cover, and so
no, Scout doesn't do no 22 like Marvel and DC trying to kill you or Image. Yeah, Scout is well behaved on the variant verse.
But they'll do 3 or 4 though. But they don't do.
But that's affordable. That's affordable if you're into that. I mean, for me, when you guys come out with this, first of all, I'm gonna tell my comic shop and everybody else actually comic shop. Make sure that they get this for their shelves. Order it for yourself. Put it on your pull list for when it is ready. I mean, and look how simple this is, folks. This is what you do on Twitter and obviously all over the social verses. You can follow Chispa Comics as a whole at Chispa Comics. Check out the awesome Mucho Mass Media, which is in partnership with Scout Comics, awesome publisher down south as well. You got to see this awesome new universe that these guys are creating now. Of course, you guys are wondering once again, how do you get involved if you can? So, they're listening, mi gente, they're listening. You could mail David right there. Hopefully next time it'll be a bowls, dbowls at chispacomics.com.
I think mine it is. It's David at chispa.com, right?
David's personal email is going to get swapped with submissions now.
What I need to do is I need to set like a nothing.
Look at this right there, Hector Chispa Comics.
Hector, he's the more dependable of the two, so it's cool. Him first. I won't get upset.
All good.
What is this? Looks great, guys. Which character is the most 956?
Woohoo!
What's that mean?
956.
I don't know.
That's where I'm from.
The zip code.
The zip code where I'm from.
Okay.
Yeah. So
good question. Yeah, going back to local, going back to that particular place.
Yeah,
maybe
the whole thing is in the. I suspect it because right now they're being written, and so my ideas and Hector's ideas when we created the characters because it's Mucho Mass Media IP. We created the characters and like just a basic description of them. But when we hired the writers, we were like, you pick the town where you want this person to be, and usually it'd be the town where these people are from. So I suspect it's gonna be that the most 956 is gonna be Oscar Garza's Revive because he is from Brownsville and he's El
Valle.
Yeah, he's from the Valley, and the Mashburn and Grifty comics are just so incredible that and they're set here that I just know that this is going to also that their character is going to reflect that as well. And then we didn't include art from all the books that are coming out. We don't have there's a couple of things that are coming out like I mentioned Alex Segura stuff and the Mashbone and Grifty stuff that we didn't show you guys art, but it's incredible. And if you follow our feed, you'll see images from it. But
and once I get press releases, you're gonna see it on Comic Crusaders anyway, because we have your back 150%.
We're gonna make sure that our public relations people know that y'all are up at the top of the list. That you guys should get like a first look at that shit.
Oh, please do. I would love to. I'll take that one personally, and I want to talk to all your team members and talk about how they feel creating something in their likeness for a change.
And I will tell the person who asked the question about 956. I can't remember whose name was, but Jose. My character in the Blue Deer is from Alice, Texas. So I have lots of friends who live in Alice, and I've always wanted to set something there because it's like this little like when you're driving from when I was a kid. Isn't this true? When you would want to buy comics, you had to go to San Antonio when we were kids, right, Hector? Or so when you're driving up in the 70s or 80s to go to San Antonio to buy cool shit, the only town in between really that was of any like significance and not that much was Alice, this little town in the middle. And it's just like there in the middle of nowhere with like oil fields all around it and brush and shit. And I'm just like a superhero coming from there. That's awesome. How can I make that work? So I'm having a lot of fun working on that.
Yeah, so let's find out. Yeah, we're gonna wrap this way because I definitely want to know where you guys are gonna be at. Because I know folks I don't know. This is a show. You guys are putting. I can't wait to read these books and meet more of the community because I'm being put onto stuff that I obviously need to take part in. So what is BIPOC Pop and what other cons, if that's what that is, are you doing this year?
Yeah. Hector, he's invited us, right, to BIPOC Pop?
Yes, yeah, we're on. Yeah, Profe invited us. In Austin,
we will definitely be there. That's in Austin. Hector, you go first because you're more con plugged in.
It's so we'll definitely be in Austin in the middle of March for BIPOC. That's Professor Aldama's conference. And also we'll definitely be at San Diego 100% this year. And so for us, because we have Black Demon April, we have Katrina's Caravan in May, and so we're going to be visiting comic book shops, the local, and so just to for some signings. So stay tuned, check out the social media webs.
But we're definitely going to do. It's definitely be San Diego. I'm pretty sure Dragon Con, definitely New York City Comic Con, obviously the Texas Latino Comic Con.
When is it this year? When is it, man? Is there plans to popping?
Gosh, it's to be announced. I'm currently working with the city of Dallas to secure a date for that, but
awesome.
There's some logistical challenges because for the first time ever, we are going to try to have Lucha Libre. Going down.
Yeah, because he literally got challenged by a luchador. So now Hector is going to literally be.
I already see. Hector's going to dress like a Peso here. I was like, right, let's go.
Man.
It's going to be like.
The winner has to produce a wrestling comic then, a luchador comic.
Yeah, no, we want to. I mean, we have plans long term for like a line of like wrestling stuff. We want to do kaiju stuff. We want to like do a more dark fantasy horror stuff.
You should also have
Latino, right?
Yeah.
You should have. Do you also have like different food vendors from different parts of Latino America? That would be pretty cool. You'll get like trucks, Puerto Rican food, Dominican food, Mexican food, Salvadorian. Yeah. I'll go there. I'll come out 50 pounds heavier.
Yes, Jose, that's it. I saw Jose's message. Yes, I'll be in Denton.
Look at this guy.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't stop traveling, Hector and David. This is amazing, you guys.
Yeah.
All right. So, Melvin, one more question from you, and then we're going to close up the show. If you have any.
Wow, I got no question. You caught me totally unprepared.
No worries, man. That's what these guys are awesome. It's their energy.
They let me with no questions, and they're still going forward. Things are still in the works too, so it's ongoing. It's an ongoing thing.
And I can't wait. So, folks, again, stay tuned. Like everybody else at Chispa Comics. All right, follow them socials. Follow Scout Comics to see everything else they got too for them. Amazing plethora of creators. They got something for everybody. That's a fact, all right? And of course, follow Big Dave out here, David Obos. All right, the links are below too, so you could click away. And of course, follow Hector Rodriguez Tercero at El Peso Hero. And check out that book too, folks. If you guys don't know, El Peso Hero is really cool. There's no way you could not seen this. Because I see El Peso at least once a day on some social media platform. Good on you too for promoting,
thank you for always being there, brother. También.
But always all support and love, kiddo.
Awesome.
All right. So with that, folks, hasta la próxima, mi gente. You know what it is. Follow Comic Crusaders, comiccrusaders.com, and across social media. I'm gonna get Melvin stuff. You're gonna follow him below. But I know one of them on Twitter is Robo Pulp. check out the big homie.
Really,
All right?
yes, thank you.
All right,
Thank
no
you so
worries,
much,
kid.
guys.
And with that, mi gente,
Hueva.
much love. Hasta la próxima. You know what it is. Huepa! Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.shop and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.